Chapter 4070, Dian Empire, 1. Just then they heard a noise outside. "Who's there?" The alarmed Mr. Su frowned and shouted, and the others looked up as well. "Xiao Wu." They were thrilled to see who it was. Elder Helian, who was close to Feng Wu, went up to her in a hurry and took her by the arm in excitement. "You're finally back. You disappeared as soon as you set foot in the Dongsang Kingdom. We were so worried." Feng Wu chuckled. Elder Helian smacked her on the head. "Stop laughing. How can you do that? You're so careless." Seeing that Feng Wu had come back, Mr. Su frowned a little. "Your trip to Donglin City was for nothing. You might as well not go." Elder Helian's face darkened. Even Mr. Su retorted, "What are you talking about? Xiao Wu went into Donglin City all by herself, and she's already very lucky to be able to come back alive." "Mr. Su, you're asking too much." Mr. Su's face darkened, but Mr. Lu chimed in. "Elder Helian is right. You're already very lucky to be back safely. By the way, Xiao Wu, since you've come back from Donglin City, do you know what's going on there?" Hearing that, everyone looked at Feng Wu. Feng Wu was confused. "What is it?" Mr. Lu looked disappointed. He sighed and said in disappointment, "I see that you really don't know, but I didn't expect you to do anything. Helian, take her away. She must be tired." After that, Mr. Lu turned to Mr. Su with a wry smile. "The general isn't here. What should we do? I'm so worried." Mr. Su said, "Don't worry. Didn't Patriarch Hu Yen buy us 3 months? It's been over 2 months, and we still have at least 20 days left." While they were discussing, Feng Wu took the information from Elder Helian and read it from beginning to end. She sighed with emotion. "You've all received the information in time. You all heard what Lord Jing said in front of everyone." Elder Helian didn't know what to say. "Our spy worked very hard to send out that piece of information, and he's dead now." Feng Wu said grumpily, "Isn't that a pointless sacrifice? You'll know everything when I come back." Immediately, all eyes were on Feng Wu. "What did you say? What do you know?" Feng Wu shrugged. "I know a lot more than that. For instance, you don't know what happened afterward, do you?" Elder Helian said anxiously, "That was the fastest way to get the information out. It happened only a day ago. Did something else happen after that?" Feng Wu nodded. "A lot of things happened. For instance, when Lord Jing tried to blame it on the Junwo Empire, Prince Yen Yu of the Dian Empire arrived with a large group of spiritual saints." "What?" Feng Wu's words shocked everyone, and they all stared at her. "What did you say? Who's Prince Yen Yu?" "A bunch of spiritual saints." Chapter 4071, Dian Empire, 2. Feng Wu nodded and said seriously, "Prince Yen Yu is Princess Yen Ling's brother." Elder Helian said, "Prince Yen Yu? The son of Lord Yen of the Dian Empire? He brought a large group of spiritual saints with him? How do you know that? Are you sure?" Frustrated, Elder Helian lashed out at Feng Wu. Elder Helian wasn't the only one. Everyone else was equally anxious. They all stared at Feng Wu, hoping that she would tell them. Feng Wu sat down in a chair. "I'm thirsty." Elder Dongfang immediately poured her some tea. Feng Wu sipped her tea and said indifferently, "How do I know that? Of course, I saw it with my own eyes." Elder Helian asked, "Did you see with your own eyes that Prince Yen Yu had arrived with a large group of spiritual saints?" Feng Wu said, "Yup." Elder Helian asked again, "What level is that Prince Yen Yu? And how many spiritual saints do you think he has?" Elder Helian wasn't the only one who cared. Everyone else did. Feng Wu gave it some thought and said seriously, "That Prince Yen Yu has to be beyond the spiritual saint stage. As for the people he has with him, there are at least 30 of them." Elder Helian fell to the ground with a pale face. "More than 30 spiritual saints? Are you sure?" Feng Wu nodded. "I saw it with my own eyes. Of course, I'm sure." Elder Helian said, "These people are helping the Dongsang Kingdom to attack the Junwo Empire, aren't they? Otherwise, why would he bring so many capable cultivators here?" They're all here to defeat us. We're doomed. How are we supposed to fight them? Princess Yenling brought 2 peak-level spiritual saints with her, and we've already been defeated. If Patriarch Huyen hadn't intervened, the Junwo Empire would have been finished. Mr. Lu and the others drew in their breaths as well, and their hearts sank. Elder Hellion asked, "Is the Lung family really going to take over?" The king of the Dongsang Kingdom was from the Lung family. However, Feng Wu shook her head. "I don't think so. I think the ruler of the Dongsang Kingdom Nas Nang Nanas." Everyone was astonished when they heard that. Elder Hellion stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. "What did you say? The Dongsang Kingdom has. How was that even possible?" Feng Wu said matter-of-factly, "Of course. The Dongsang King joined hands with Lord Jing and his men to assassinate Princess Yenling. Prince Yen Yu wouldn't let him off the hook. Now that the royal palace of the Dongsang Kingdom has been destroyed, apart from me, no one else in the imperial city has been able to get away." What? Everyone's head went blank when they heard Feng Wu's words, and Elder Hellion was the first to react. "Wait, what did you say? Say it again." Hence, Feng Wu slowly repeated what she said earlier. Elder Hellion looked at the crowd, and they all looked like they had seen a ghost. Elder Hellion said, "But that can't be. Hasn't the Dongsang Kingdom blamed it on the Junwo Empire already? If that's the case, it means that he's well prepared. Why is Yen Yu so sure that the Dongsang King has sent someone to kill Princess Yenling?" Chapter 4072, Feng Wu Returns, 1. Feng Wu nodded. "Good question." Elder Hellion gave Feng Wu a strange look and thought, "Something's not right with this girl. She's so calm. It's as if she's the culprit." Hence he asked Feng Wu, "Tell me then, what happened?" Feng Wu said, "Because someone recorded the entire process of Lord Jing killing Princess Yenling. When Prince Yen Yu and his men arrived and the Dongsang King and his men welcomed them, that person played the recording on the spiritual fossil stone." Feng Wu said it casually, but the others couldn't believe their ears. Elder Dongfang was the first to object. "That's impossible. The Dongsang King has assassinated Princess Yenling, and it's such a secret. How could he let someone record it? He's not stupid." Feng Wu looked at the others, and they all nodded, obviously agreeing with Elder Dongfang. Feng Wu chuckled. "You won't believe me even if I tell you. Little Phoenix." Feng Wu called the bird. Little Phoenix crawled out of Feng Wu's sleeve, glanced at the others in an arrogant manner, and waved its paw. Immediately, an image appeared on the wall. Little Phoenix had projected the spiritual fossil stone onto the wall of the Dongsang Palace, and it was showing the others now. Feng Wu reminded them, Dongsang King was destroyed by this spiritual fossil stone. You guys have to watch it carefully. Donglin City has been very busy recently. They didn't believe it at first. How could the Dongsang King be destroyed by a mere spiritual fossil stone? Until they saw everything. The entire process of Lord Jing assassinating Princess Yenling. Everyone was dumbfounded after watching it. They couldn't believe their eyes. Mr. Lu suddenly stared at Feng Wu. "Where did you get this spiritual fossil stone?" Feng Wu smiled a little. Elder Hellion suddenly realized what had happened. He pointed at the image on the wall and then at Feng Wu. He was so shocked that he was stammering. "No, it can't be. It was you. You did it." Elder Hellion stared at Feng Wu. "You were there when Lord Jing killed Princess Yenling?" Despite the question, Elder Hellion was certain that the girl was there. Mr. Su stared at Feng Wu as well and looked surprised. Feng Wu chuckled. "Of course. I've been playing the maid around Princess Yenling. Can I record it in secret?" Mr. Lu's interest was piqued and he asked curiously, "Tell me, what happened? What did you do when you went back to Donglin City? Did you stir up all the trouble there?" Mr. Su wouldn't believe it. How was that even possible? However, he then heard that Feng Wu had pretended to be Lord Jing's guard at first to infiltrate the Jing manor, then used her relationship with Lord Jing to plot against Princess Yenling, and gradually exacerbated the conflict between Princess Yenling and Lord Jing. It eventually created such a scene. Feng Wu made it sound so easy, but the others were astonished. You! Elder Hellion pointed at Feng Wu. You're so bold. How dare you do such a thing on your own? Do you know how dangerous it is? The others fell silent at Feng Wu's words. Chapter 4073, Feng Wu Returns, 2. The girl was simply too powerful for them to handle. Mr. Su frowned. You're only a peak spiritual overlord. How dare you? She had single-handedly destroyed more than half of the Dongsang kingdom and the imperial capital. Was she even human? That was unbelievable. Wait! Mr. Lu's eyes lit up when he saw Feng Wu. You're no longer a peak spiritual overlord, are you? You look like a level 3 spiritual saint now. Mr. Lu stared at Feng Wu. Are you a level 3 spiritual saint already? Before Feng Wu could say anything, Elder Dongfang and Elder Hellion almost jumped to their feet. A level 3 spiritual saint? That can't be. Neither of them had reached level 3 yet, and they used to be so much more capable than Feng Wu. Mr. Lu didn't know what to do either, so he gave Mr. Su a bewildered look. Mr. Su probed with his spiritual essence. After that he nodded at Mr. Lu, indicating that he was right. Feng Wu sighed. I thought I could become a level 4 spiritual saint, but as it turned out, I'm only a level 3 spiritual saint. I'm so ashamed. Nonsense. Elder Hellion smacked Feng Wu on the head. You're killing me. I'm still a level 2 spiritual saint. Hey, by the way. Feng Wu smacked her forehead, took out 4 boxes, and handed them each. What's this? Elder Hellion could sense the dense spiritual essence before he took the box. It's the 10,000 spiritual fruit, Feng Wu said indifferently. It's a treasure that can improve your cultivation level. Take it. The 10,000 spiritual fruit? Mr. Su cried out in surprise. It can indeed stimulate the spiritual body and bring out one's potential in a short period of time, enabling one to make a breakthrough. But where did you get it? And you've taken 4 of them. It was a treasure. It wasn't just a treasure. Any spiritual saint would go crazy over it. Feng Wu said, I found it in my 3rd senior brother's valley, so I picked some for you. Take them and make a breakthrough. And your 3rd senior brother is, Mr. Su was genuinely shocked. The 10,000 spiritual fruit was so precious that it could turn best friends against each other. However, the girl had given it away without hesitation. Who was this 3rd senior brother? Could he be someone like Patriarch Huyen? Would the master really not mind if she picked the fruit like this? Feng Wu waved her hand. My 3rd senior brother isn't on the continent anymore, so forget about it. To him, the fruit is about the same as something you can buy on the market for a coin a kilo. Don't worry. He won't be mad. The 10,000 spiritual fruit was so important to them, but it meant so little to that master. Mr. Su didn't know what to say. However, since Feng Wu had made such rapid progress in such a short period of time, they trusted her 3rd senior brother. However, before he went into seclusion, Elder Hellion asked Feng Wu, if the Dongsang kingdom really is in such a mess, do you think Prince Yenyu will come after us? Chapter 4074, Feng Wu Returns, 3. And there are the cultivation techniques. Feng Wu took out some manuals from her 3rd senior brother's cave and handed them out. Since her 3rd senior brother had said that she could have everything in the valley, she decided to make good use of it and help her spiritual saints. After all, when Prince Yenyu and his men invaded, Mr. Lu and his colleagues would be their main force. Helping them improve their capability was Feng Wu's top priority now. Isn't that the purple flame swordplay? Isn't that the heavenly dragon swordplay? Isn't that the extermination of the army? Isn't that the secret wind flame sutra? Mr. Lu, Mr. Su, Elder Dongfang, and Elder Hellion all stared at Feng Wu in astonishment. Was this girl even human? These are all legendary cultivation techniques. How can you? She was taking them out as if she was giving away candy. Everyone stared at Feng Wu in astonishment. As a matter of fact, They had been so shocked by Feng Wu today that they couldn't think straight. They were all top cultivators of the Junwo Empire. Feng Wu waved at them and said indifferently, "My third senior brother doesn't care about these cultivation techniques at all. He said that I could handle them however I wanted, so don't worry about them." Elder Hellion asked, "Has the Dongsang Kingdom really been destroyed?" Feng Wu said, "Even if they aren't, they've been almost wiped out, but the Dongsang Kingdom isn't important." Elder Hellion didn't know what to say. If the Dongsang Kingdom isn't important, then what is? The Dayan Empire hired these people to attack us, and now that they've fallen out with each other, isn't it great news for us? Hearing what Elder Hellion said, everyone grew excited. However, Feng Wu had never looked so serious and calm. She said coldly, "That was what I thought at first. That was why I deliberately created the conflict between Princess Yanling and the Dongsang Kingdom. I thought that if I could drive a wedge between them, the crisis of the Junwo Empire would be solved. But I realized later that something wasn't right." The others all looked at Feng Wu. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. "It wasn't the Dongsang Kingdom from the very beginning. The Dayan Empire is the one that's after us." "What?" That was unbelievable. Feng Wu looked at them and stressed each word. "The Dayan Empire wants to destroy us, but as a superior kingdom, they're limited by the rules of nature, so they can only support the Dongsang Kingdom against us. Moreover, it won't be as simple as an invasion. What the Dayan Empire wants is destruction. They want to destroy everyone in the Junwo Empire." Seeing the change in their expressions, Feng Wu said, "By destruction, I mean that they'll kill everyone in the Junwo Empire and use the land as their sacrificial altar." "An altar?" Mr. Lu's face darkened. "What's that supposed to mean?" Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu said, "As for why they want the Junwo Empire as the altar, Princess Yanling didn't tell me, but one thing is for sure. The Dayan Empire won't let us go, at least until they kill everyone." Everyone drew in their breaths. "That was so scary." Feng Wu said solemnly, "That's the truth." Chapter 4075. Feng Wu Returns 4. Elder Hellion stuttered. "Is it a misunderstanding?" Feng Wu shook her head and said firmly, "That's the truth." The air felt heavy, and everyone fell silent. At first, they thought that the Dongsang Kingdom was the enemy, so they were excited to see the kingdom destroyed by the Dayan Empire. But now, they realized that the big boss was the Dayan Empire. Feng Wu said, "Yen, you should still be consolidating the Dongsang Kingdom. As a superior kingdom, they must have their limitations and can't attack us directly because they could have done so a long time ago. With the capability of the Dayan Empire, the Junwo Empire couldn't have survived for so long. There must be a rule behind it. I'll go back to His Majesty first. The Junwo Empire has to be prepared." Elder Hellion said, "You're right. If that's the truth, we have to fight to the end." Feng Wu nodded. "Where's my godfather?" Elder Hellion said, "Master Ling Hu let him stay behind to cultivate. He said that he would make a breakthrough." At the thought of Master Ling Hu's capability, Feng Wu was relieved. Feng Wu left behind the spirit stones she had brought from the Dongsang Kingdom before leaving. Seeing the spirit stones Feng Wu had left behind, the others were amazed again. Had she emptied the Dongsang Kingdom? Meanwhile, Feng Wu had arrived at the Imperial Palace. The Junwo Empire was meeting Jun Linshan and Empress Dugu. Ever since Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan weren't in the imperial capital, Empress Dugu and Jun Linshan had been staying close to Emperor Wu and making him happy. As a result, Emperor Wu's impression of them had changed a lot. Jun Linshan frowned when he saw Feng Wu. "Little Feng Wu, you're finally here." He stared at her. "You're quite a troublemaker. Did you offend Night Owl just because you're pretty?" Feng Wu glanced at him. Empress Dugu chimed in, but her tone was much gentler. "Mr. Sakiya of the Dongsang Kingdom was here to propose a marriage to His Majesty, saying that His Royal Highness is going to marry you." "Feng Wu, aren't you with our Crown Prince now? Since when do you know the Crown Prince of the Dongsang Kingdom? That's not appropriate, is it?" Empress Dugu had been whispering to Emperor Wu these days, but Emperor Wu never believed her. This time, he said decisively, "Shut up." Empress Dugu gave Emperor Wu a pleading look. Emperor Wu said grumpily, "Go away. Both of you." Jun Linshan wasn't convinced. "Father, Mr. Sakia said that Night Owl and Feng Wu are in love with each other. If they marry, the Dongsang Kingdom and the Junwo Empire will become allies, and will live in peace for 100 years. Father, please don't take my brother's side. You have to consider the people of the Junwo Empire first." Emperor Wu frowned and said coldly, "I told you to leave. Can't you hear me?" Feng Wu glanced at Jun Linshan and Empress Dugu and smirked. "Joined by marriage with the Dongsang Kingdom? That won't be necessary." Jun Linshan glanced at Feng Wu. "Little Feng Wu, as a subject of the Junwo Empire, do you really want to ignore the safety of your people for your love? You're so selfish." Feng Wu glanced at him. "So, do you want to marry into the Dongsang Kingdom?" Jun Linshan was furious. "You." Chapter 4076, Feng Wu Returns, 5. Feng Wu waved her hand. "Even if you want to marry into the Dongsang Kingdom, you won't have that chance. It's not that the Dongsang Kingdom doesn't have a princess, but the Dongsang Kingdom really doesn't have one now." Jun Linshan smirked. "Of course, the Dongsang Kingdom has princesses. They have quite a few." Feng Wu smiled. "The Dongsang Kingdom doesn't even have a royal family now, let alone a princess." Jun Linshan said angrily, "Feng Wu, are you trying to make fun of me? The Dongsang Kingdom is so powerful. Otherwise, the Junwo Empire wouldn't have confronted them in the Peace Grassland for so long. Now that you're saying that the entire royal family of the Dongsang Kingdom is gone, are you saying that the royal family of the Junwo Empire is going to be destroyed as well? How dare you?" Empress Dugu was pleasantly surprised. That was indeed a good way to blame Feng Wu. However, before Empress Dugu could say anything, Feng Wu turned to Emperor Wu. "Your Majesty, I have something to tell you." Naturally, Emperor Wu was on Feng Wu's side. With a darkened face, he glanced at Empress Dugu and Jun Linshan. In the end, they left reluctantly. After they left, Feng Wu showed Emperor Wu the part where Yen Yu and the others came to the Dongsang Kingdom. Emperor Wu was astonished. "Is that true?" Emperor Wu stared at Feng Wu in bewilderment. Feng Wu nodded. "That's true." Emperor Wu said, "But is everything true? Did the Dongsang King really send Lord Jing to kill Princess Yanling?" Feng Wu smiled and nodded. Emperor Wu knew Feng Wu too well. He knew what was going on when the girl raised an eyebrow. The Dongsang King isn't stupid. He's all about fawning on the Dayan Empire, so of course he wouldn't kill Princess Yanling. Even if Princess Yanling killed his crown prince, he still wouldn't do anything. Emperor Wu stared at Feng Wu. "What did you do?" Feng Wu grinned. Emperor Wu was intrigued. "Tell me, are you still trying to keep it from me?" Hence, Feng Wu told Emperor Wu everything from when she pretended to be Lord Jing's guard. "That's so." Emperor Wu didn't know what to say. "That's so." Emperor Wu didn't know how to describe the girl. "You're such a genius." Back then, when the girl was little, Emperor Wu had no idea that she would become so capable. She single-handedly turned a country upside down, and the clever Dongsang King had been played like a fiddle. Emperor Wu broke into a cold sweat and thought to himself, "Luckily, I'm not her enemy. I've always been on her side." Feng Wu looked at him. Emperor Wu went on. "Everyone knows how domineering the Dayan Empire is. If they want to become the ruler of this continent, no one will dare to defy them. What do you think we should do if they invade the Junwo Empire?" Feng Wu gave Emperor Wu a sympathetic look. "Your Majesty, are you saying that we should compromise?" Chapter 4077, Feng Wu Returns, 6. Emperor Wu smiled bitterly. "Even if we can't give in, we still have to. The Junwo Empire is no match for the Dongsang Kingdom, let alone the Dayan Empire. In order to conserve our strength, I'm afraid we'll have to change our name to the Junwo Kingdom. So be it. As long as we can keep the common people alive, we'll have to live with it." Feng Wu gave the Junwo Empire a sympathetic look until he realized what had happened. "Kiddo, what's that look in your eyes? What? Am I wrong? Emperor Wu looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. Feng Wu heaved a long sigh and smiled bitterly. Even if you want to surrender, it's not up to you. Emperor Wu asked, what do you mean? Feng Wu said, according to Princess Yanling, the Dayan Empire wants to destroy the Junwo Empire entirely. What did you say? Emperor Wu jumped to his feet and stared at Feng Wu. Say that again. Staring at Emperor Wu, Feng Wu repeated what she said. This time, Emperor Wu heard everything. No, that's impossible. Emperor Wu waved his hand. Why should the Dayan Empire kill us all? We didn't do anything to harm the Empire. Feng Wu said solemnly, existence can be a mistake sometimes. Emperor Wu stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu told Emperor Wu what she heard when she interrogated Princess Yanling. A sacrificial altar? What kind of a sacrificial altar? Why did they have to choose the Junwo Empire? Moreover, they're offering the blood of the people of the Junwo Empire as a sacrificial altar. That's... Emperor Wu felt dizzy. He couldn't accept the result. Feng Wu gave Emperor Wu a hand so that he wouldn't fall. Xiao Wu, it's not real, is it? The Junwo Empire wasn't strong enough to withstand it yet. He stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu looked into his eyes without saying a word. That familiar look. Yes, that was the look Jun Linyuan gave him every time he was delusional, reminding him that running away wouldn't work. That's... Emperor Wu couldn't accept it. The Junwo Empire had been keeping a low profile for so long and finally had two geniuses, Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan. They could finally hold their heads high, but now he was told that the Junwo Empire was going to be wiped out. Emperor Wu wanted to say that he wouldn't believe it, but he trusted Feng Wu. It had to be true. If that's the case, it explains why the Dayan Empire has been supporting the Dongsang Kingdom, while the Dongsang Kingdom has been targeting the Junwo Empire. That plan should have been there from the very beginning, but it's become more intense now. To be more precise, the Dayan Empire is getting anxious. Clenching his fists, Emperor Wu racked his brain for the manpower he could use. By the way, what's Yen Yu's cultivation level like? What about the people he brought? Emperor Wu asked Feng Wu. Feng Wu said seriously, of the 30 or so people, the weakest one is a spiritual saint, and the strongest one. I don't know their capabilities. Emperor Wu dropped to his knees. He felt like admitting his defeat. If they invaded, no one in the Junwo Empire would survive. Chapter 4078, Feng Wu Returns, 7. Is the Dayan Empire only targeting the Junwo Empire, or is it targeting other kingdoms as well? Emperor Wu's voice was trembling. Feng Wu looked into Emperor Wu's eyes and remained silent. Emperor Wu felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He almost couldn't stand still. Involuntarily, he put a hand on the table and asked, "Is it just us?" Feng Wu said seriously, "I think so. As for the actual situation, it'll depend on the attitude of the Dayan Empire." Emperor Wu took a deep breath. "I don't care about my death, but what about my people? What are they going to do? Do you have any idea?" Emperor Wu looked up at Feng Wu. Seeing the conflicted look on Feng Wu's face, Emperor Wu smiled bitterly. "You have a point. You're only in your teens, but you've already made such a deep impression on the Dongsang Kingdom. What can you possibly do to a colossus like the Dayan Empire? So, the Junwo Empire can only wait for the disaster to happen?" Emperor Wu looked as if he had aged by decades. Feng Wu said seriously, "I'm sure we can figure it out." Emperor Wu waved at her with a wry smile and said, "You can leave now." Feng Wu knew perfectly well that Emperor Wu needed time to digest the information, so she quietly left the room. On Feng Wu's way back to the Feng Manor, in a grove of wisteria. Click. Someone threw a small fruit at Feng Wu. Feng Wu dodged involuntarily and reined in her horse. She looked around and gripped her sword. "Who's there?" Feng Wu narrowed her eyes, but she still didn't see who it was. Feng Wu was even more alarmed. There were very few people here. If someone tried to attack her... Thud! Another fruit smashed down at Feng Wu. This time, Feng Wu didn't dodge and was hit on the head. Feng Wu, on the other hand, was prepared for this. She dashed off, and the next second she was up a wisteria tree with a dagger in her hand. However, that person moved swiftly and jumped onto Feng Wu's horse. That wasn't all. Feng Wu realized that the man had taken her fallen star sword. Hiya! The man rode as fast as he could. Damn it! Feng Wu said angrily. Of course, she wouldn't lose her fallen star sword. Stop! Feng Wu shouted and ran after him. By then, Feng Wu had noticed that it was a teenager in a blue robe. He wore a mask with Zhong Kuei's face on it, which looked quite intimidating. But Feng Wu didn't have time for that. She had to get the fallen star sword back. The teenager rode as fast as he could on his horse, while Feng Wu jumped over the top of the wisteria tree. The longer Feng Wu chased, the more astonished she became. She could tell that the man was doing it on purpose because if she sped up, he would do the same. If she slowed down, he would slow down as well, as if he had been waiting for her. Who on earth was this man? He was at least a level 3 spiritual saint. And the way he looked. Feng Wu racked her brain. Feng Wu searched her memory, but still couldn't figure out who it was. However, now that she had realized that he was doing it on purpose, she wouldn't let him control her anymore. Feng Wu suddenly screamed. Ah! Chapter 4079. Feng Wu returns, 8. Arg! Feng Wu screamed. At the same time, she fell from the top of the wisteria tree and landed with a thump. What? The teenager turned around and looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. Seeing that Feng Wu was still holding her chest and wouldn't get up, he looked confused. After waiting for a while, Feng Wu still hadn't caught up with him. He looked concerned and shouted at Feng Wu, "Hey! Do you want this sword or not?" Feng Wu ignored him. Pressing a hand on her chest, she looked like she was going to pass out. Was she still badly injured? At that thought, the teenager slowly rode toward Feng Wu, jumped off, and crouched down. He looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. "Hey kiddo, are you really?" Everything happened in a split second. Just then, Feng Wu leaped up and slid the dagger across his throat. The teenager was crouching, and it was impossible for him to dodge. Hence, he involuntarily pushed Feng Wu. However, Feng Wu was prepared for that. She jumped around and the next second she was behind him. At the same time, there was the sound of an explosion. It was a high-explosive bomb Feng Wu found in the armory of the Dongsang Kingdom. She had buried it in a formation when the teenager wasn't looking, and she set it off just now. Caught off guard, the teenager was hit by the explosion. Although the high-explosive bomb couldn't damage his defense, it still gave him a lot of trouble. Feng Wu drew out her dagger again. The teenager bent his fingers and aimed at Feng Wu's back. However, he only managed to grab a handful of thorns. SSSS. He drew in his breath. When he looked at his palms, he saw little holes, and green smoke was rising out of them as he watched. His face turned green. Is it poisonous? Feng Wu didn't have time to reply. She struck out again. The teenager chuckled. All right, I'd like to see your cultivation level. Thump, thump, thump. The two of them exchanged dozens of blows, and only then did Feng Wu realize that she was much weaker than him because the blue-robed teenager was simply too skillful. It was as if he had been showing her mercy. In the end, he pinned Feng Wu's hands behind her back and tied her hands up with vines. Let go of me. Feng Wu glared at him. Crossing his arms, the teenager looked at Feng Wu in amusement. You're quite energetic. Why did you look like you were going to pass out just then? Are you going to faint now? Feng Wu ignored him and kept her gaze on him, trying to figure out who he was. The teenager seemed to know what Feng Wu was thinking. He smiled at Feng Wu and said, Take a wild guess. You'll never guess who I am. Feng Wu took a deep breath. What on earth do you want, then? Tilting his head, the teenager gave it some thought and suddenly said to Feng Wu, I'm new here and have nowhere to go. How about you take me back home? Feng Wu said, I don't know who you are. Why would I do that? What if you hurt my family? The teenager shrugged. Don't worry. I won't hurt your family. On the contrary, with me around, no one will pick on you. Do you want to think about it? Feng Wu said, no. Chapter 4080, The Young Lord of the Dayan Empire, 1. The teenager didn't know what to say. Why are you so difficult to talk to? Feng Wu glared at him. Who on earth are you? Why did you offend me on purpose and want to come back with me? What's your plan? The teenager gave a perfect guileless look. I just want to look at pretty people, okay? Feng Wu said, no. The teenager said, all right. What do I have to do to go home with you? Feng Wu said, I'm not going to do that. Just give up. The teenager grinned at Feng Wu. Are you sure? Feng Wu said, I'm sure. And untie me. The teenager wasn't mad at her and untied her hands. Seeing that he had untied her, Feng Wu picked up the fallen star sword that had fallen to the ground, jumped onto the horse, and was about to leave. The teenager let her go without stopping her. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She looked over her shoulder involuntarily and saw that the teenager had crossed his arms and raised his eyebrows in an indifferent manner. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. This teenager was so strange. She ignored the man and rode straight for the Feng manor. However, when she got off the horse, she saw the teenager standing behind her and smiling at her. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She tossed the rein to the gatekeeper, threw a dirty look at the teenager, and headed straight for the manor. Hey, who are you? You can't go in. Feng Wu only made a few steps before the teenager followed her in. Miss Wu, the doorman looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. The teenager didn't even move a finger, but he was already stumbling back. That was a very capable man. Feng Wu rubbed her temple in resignation and waved at the doorman. You can leave now. Yes. The doorman left in a hurry. Feng Wu turned to the teenager. What on earth do you want? The teenager said with a smile, I wanted to visit you. Look, here I am. Feng Wu sighed in resignation. All right, all right. Feng Yanfeng arrived at that moment, and Feng Wu said, that's my uncle. He's in charge of the Feng clan. Go talk to him. Feng Yanfeng saw the blue-robed teenager, but before he could say anything he saw the half-smile on the teenager's face. A chill ran down his spine, and he felt as if he had just seen death. The teenager smiled at him. Can I stay here? What more could Feng Yanfeng say? He nodded immediately. Of course, that man was so capable that Feng Yanfeng felt like he was talking to Jun Linyuan. Maybe he was even more unfathomable than Jun Linyuan. How dare he say no? Feng Yanfeng smiled at Feng Wu. Since he's your honored guest, take him to Fallen Star Yard. No. Feng Yanfeng dashed off before he could finish. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. By now, Feng Wu had learned that the blue-robed teenager had followed her here for a reason. As for what it was, although she didn't know for now, it was only a matter of time before he showed his true self. Feng Wu turned around and threw a dirty look at him. I'm not as capable as you are, and there's nothing I can do to stop you. Although I don't know what your real purpose is, but I'll kill you if you harm my family. Feng Wu warned her in a cold voice. Are you always this nice to your family? Jun Linyuan grinned. Chapter 4081, The Young Lord of the Dayan Empire, 2. Feng Wu stared at the blue-robed teenager. He reminded Feng Wu of Feng Sun, but more aggressive than him. She couldn't scold him, nor could she chase him away. She didn't even know what he wanted. What did he want? Feng Wu had no choice but to keep walking. Hey, I'm asking you a question. The teenager poked Feng Wu in the back. Feng Wu ignored him. He moved closer. Are you really that nice to your family? Feng Wu asked, why do you care? He had snatched her fallen star sword for no reason, tied her up for no reason, and came back home with her. Feng Wu couldn't be more alarmed. Who told you it had nothing to do with me? Maybe we're even related, said the teenager in an unhurried tone. Feng Wu said, what? We're relatives? I don't look anything like you. When Feng Wu looked into his eyes, she felt that she had seen those eyes somewhere before. She tried to grab the blue-robed teenager's mask, But he took a step back, stood still, and smiled at Feng Wu. Feng Wu asked, "Have I met you before?" The teenager shook his head. "No, you haven't." Feng Wu was perplexed. She had never met him before, but why did he look familiar? "Your name?" Feng Wu frowned. The teenager didn't try to keep it from her. "I'm Luo Zilin." Feng Wu asked, "Is your surname Luo?" The teenager said, "That's right." Feng Wu was confused. "Is there a Luo family on this continent?" The teenager chuckled. "Not here. Maybe it's on another continent." Feng Wu said grumpily, "Are you saying that you're from the Dayan Empire?" "Keep bragging." The teenager wasn't angry at Feng Wu's retort. He only smiled at her. "I'm not bragging. What if I really came from the other side of the sea?" Feng Wu said grumpily, "Do you think the formation is that easy to break? One Yenyu is already frustrating enough. If everyone can come, our continent will be in a mess." The teenager frowned. "Yenyu?" Feng Wu waved her hands in resignation and smiled bitterly. "Prince Yenyu is from the Dayan Empire. He's very influential, and the people he brought with him are all very capable. The Junwo Empire." An idea then struck Feng Wu. She turned around and stared at the teenager. "You should leave the Junwo Empire as soon as possible. It doesn't matter where you go, but you can't stay here anymore." The teenager was confused. "Why?" Feng Wu said, "I've delivered the message. It's up to you if you want to do it or not." After that, Feng Wu went straight into the Fallen Star yard. Luo Zilin stood outside for a while and frowned, but something seemed to occur to him, and he smiled again. Opening his fan, he walked into Fallen Star yard with a smile. Granny Zhao was about to close the door when she saw the teenager, who was wearing a blue robe and a mask. She frowned involuntarily. "You are..." "I'm Miss Wu's relative." Luo Zilin closed his fan and entered the courtyard. Granny Zhao looked confused. "Relative? What kind of relative? Why hadn't she met him before?" Chapter 4082, The Young Lord of the Dayan Empire, 3. What kind of relative? Why hadn't she met him before? Granny Zhao was perplexed. But this young master was quite good-looking and he looked familiar. Granny Zhao couldn't remember where she had seen him before. Luo Zilin followed Feng Wu everywhere. Feng Wu looked back at him in resignation. "What on earth do you want?" The teenager looked at her and said aggrievedly, "Is that how you treat me when I'm your guest?" Feng Wu rubbed her temple and looked at the teenager in the blue robe in resignation. "Did I invite you here as a guest? Why should I treat you differently?" Seeing how rude Feng Wu was, Granny Zhao stepped out and said, "I'll go get some tea. Right away." Feng Wu said grumpily to Granny Zhao, "This uninvited guest may be a bad person. Granny Zhao, ignore him." The teenager in the blue robe was very mild-tempered. No matter what Feng Wu's attitude was, he would only smile or look aggrieved. Feng Wu didn't know what to do. "I know you're trying to set me off so that I can run away on my own. I'm not going to fall for it." The teenager opened his fan and raised his chin. Feng Wu looked at him. "I see you're very confident." The teenager said, "Of course. Have you forgotten who I am and where I come from?" Feng Wu asked, "Who are you, and where are you from?" The teenager said, "Well, I can't tell you that." Feng Wu didn't know what to say. The teenager looked at Feng Wu eagerly. "Ask me any other questions and I'll answer them." Feng Wu asked, "How are we related?" The teenager in the blue robe cleared his throat. Feng Wu smirked and ignored him. He was behaving strangely and babbling nonsense. Feng Wu was already under a lot of pressure, for Yenyu, a prince of the Dayan Empire, was looming on the horizon and could explode at any moment. Therefore, she didn't want to waste her time on unnecessary things. "How's my mum?" Feng Wu asked Granny Zhao, who had brought some tea. Granny Zhao looked at Feng Wu, heaved a long sigh, and shook her head. "She hasn't woken up yet." Feng Wu looked concerned. She was about to push the door open when she noticed the teenager in the blue robe behind her. "What are you doing?" The teenager shrugged and grinned at Feng Wu. Feng Wu frowned. Don't come in. Feng Wu closed the door behind her after that, and the teenager's nose almost knocked into the door frame. Granny Zhao didn't expect that Miss Wu would be so grumpy after her trip, so she smiled obsequiously at Luo Zilin. Would you like to sit in the living room? Luo Zilin rubbed his nose and nodded. However, he didn't sit down in the main hall. Instead, he strolled around Fallen Star Yard with his hands behind his back. Wait, I didn't know there was such an intricate formation in this barbaric land, rubbing his chin. 1110 Zilin looked amazed. Who are you? A teenager's voice rang out in the courtyard. It was Feng Xiaoqi. Hearing that his sister was back, Xiaoqi jumped over the wall of Grand Secretary Feng's courtyard next door. As soon as he got back, he saw a stranger standing in his courtyard. Xiaoqi felt that something was wrong. Luo Zilin turned around and looked at Feng Xiaoqi. Chapter 4083, The Young Lord of the Dian Empire, 4. Feng Xiaoqi was baffled. Who on earth was this person? The teenager was staring at him with those cold eyes, and Feng Xiaoqi felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. It was as if that was right. It reminded him of the way his brother-in-law used to stare at him. It made him shudder. Who are you? Why are you here in Fallen Star Yard? Feng Xiaoqi stammered, but he still stepped out bravely, for he was the only boy in the family. And who might you be? The teenager glanced at him. No matter what Feng Wu did to him, he wouldn't be angry, but he wasn't so nice to other people. On the contrary, he was very aloof. I am Feng Xiaoqi. Who are you then? Faced with such a terrifying figure, Feng Xiaoqi gritted his teeth and glared back. As for me, little Feng Wu took me home. The teenager glanced at him again. My sister took you back. Why? Feng Xiaoqi flared up right away. The teenager said, Of course, it's because I'm nice. That's why she wants me to meet her parents. Don't you think so? Feng Xiaoqi couldn't believe his eyes. That's impossible. Why not? Fine, make your own arrangements. Don't mind me. The teenager glanced at him, flapped his fan, and went on strolling around the courtyard. Hey, wait! Feng Xiaoqi ran after him. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. This man gave him a very dangerous feeling, which was almost as dangerous as Jun Linyuan's. Feng Xiaoqi didn't like the way he acted, as if he was half the owner of this house. Feng Xiaoqi ran after him, but he didn't dare to get too close, so he stopped 5 steps away and stared at Luo Zilin. Luo Zilin was casually admiring the plants in Fallen Star Yard when he glanced over his shoulder. Yes. Feng Xiaoqi was so frustrated that he couldn't speak. How should he put it? He thought, why do you look like you own the house? I'm the owner. However, he was too scared to say it. Feng Xiaoqi glanced at him in frustration, then turned to leave. Where's my sister? Feng Xiaoqi asked Granny Zhao. He had just heard that her sister was back. Granny Zhao pointed at Lady Xuanji's room. Feng Wu hadn't been around these days, and Feng Xiaoqi had been managing the family. Apart from cultivating, Feng Xiaoqi spent the rest of his time with his mother. Sister. Feng Xiaoai ran into the room. Seeing Feng Wu, he threw his head into her arms and wrapped his arms around her waist. Sister, I missed you so much. Feng Wu was happy to see Feng Xiaoqi as well. Patting him on the head, she said, I missed you too. An untimely voice rang out. How old are you? Don't you know men and women should keep some distance? Feng Wu and Feng Xiaoqi looked up at the same time to find a figure in a blue robe leaning against the door frame with an indifferent smile on his face. However, he was staring at Feng Xiaoqi. Feng Wu frowned a little. What kind of person was he? He was way out of line. Meanwhile, Feng Xiaoqi grabbed Feng Wu's hand and hesitated for a long while before asking, Sister, have you betrayed my brother-in-law? What the hell? Feng Wu was speechless. What do you mean by that? Since when did you have a brother-in-law? I'm talking about His Royal Highness. He told me before he left last time that he was going to be my brother-in-law. There will be no one else. Chapter 4084, The Young Lord of the Dian Empire, 5. Feng Wu rubbed her temple. Be serious. Feng Xiaoqi said, I'm telling the truth. That's what he told me. After that, Feng Xiaoqi even gave the teenager in blue a provoking look. The teenager in the blue robe looked at him with a half-smile, and Feng Xiaoqi stiffened again. He looked nervous and in awe. The teenager walked in and moved Feng Xiaoqi away from Feng Wu. Feng Xiaoqi didn't dare to utter a word and could only look at the teenager with a pitiful look on his face. Feng Wu glared at him. "Luo Zilin, what's wrong with you?" "He's my brother." The teenager glanced at Feng Wu and the person lying on the bed. For a moment, he seemed to let out a breath of relief. Rising to her feet, Feng Wu blocked the teenager's view and narrowed her eyes. "I'm going to ask you to leave now." Instead of going out, the teenager walked past Feng Wu, went up to Lady Xuanji's bed, and stared at the beautiful woman. The woman was stunning. Her skin was as smooth as jade, and she reminded one of a teenage girl. Time seemed to have left no trace on her face. She and Feng Wu were quite alike, but Feng Wu hadn't reached her full potential yet. Therefore, Lady Xuanji was still the most beautiful woman. Feng Wu blocked the teenager's way again and spread out her arms, looking displeased. "Luo Zilin, I'm warning you for the last time. Get out." Luo Zilin glanced at Feng Wu and asked, "Are you sure you don't want her to wake up?" Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. "Get out." There was a flash of anger in Luo Zilin's eyes when he saw that Lady Xuanji was unconscious, but it was gone now, and he was still smiling casually. He smiled at Feng Wu. "Don't doubt me. I really can do it." Feng Wu said, "Are you going to leave now, or shall I kick you out?" Luo Zilin glanced at Feng Wu. "Someone has poisoned her, hasn't they? That poison looks a little like something called plum blossom from the Yen Manor." The Yen Manor? Feng Wu wouldn't think much of it if she hadn't met Princess Yenling. However, after meeting Princess Yenling and learning about the Dian Empire, Feng Wu realized what the Yen Manor represented. "Have you heard of the Yen Manor before?" Feng Wu narrowed her eyes and became even more alarmed. "Why are you even asking? Of course I know who they are." Luo Zilin opened his fan. He was pleased to hear that Feng Wu was interested in it. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. This guy was so lively. If he had a tail, he would be wagging it. "What do you know? Do you know where Lord Yen comes from? What's the prince's name? What's the prince's name? I won't believe you if you don't tell me." Feng Wu wasn't convinced. The teenager chuckled. "Where is Lord Yen from? That's a difficult question. Is he from outer space?" Feng Wu gritted her teeth. "Luo Zilin, are you kidding me?" Luo Zilin grinned at Feng Wu. "That's right. Did I make you laugh?" Feng Xiaoqi couldn't help but chuckle. Feng Wu was speechless. Taking a deep breath, she said, "I don't want to talk to you anymore. Get out of here." Chapter 4085. The Young Lord of the Dian Empire, 6. Luo Zilin said, "Please don't. I really can cure your mother. I really can. Trust me." Feng Wu smirked. "I don't believe you." Luo Zilin tossed Feng Wu a white porcelain bottle. "Here, take it." Feng Wu looked at him in bewilderment. "What's that?" Luo Zilin smiled. "Something that can wake your mother up." Feng Wu said, "Why should I believe you?" Luo Zilin said, "If you don't believe me, your mother won't wake up." Feng Wu stared at Luo Zilin, and the teenager had a serious look in his eyes. Feng Wu almost believed him. "Sister, who is he?" Feng Xiaoqi moved closer and asked in a low voice. Feng Wu said, "He's just a passerby." Feng Xiaoqi frowned. "He's just a random passerby. Why do you believe him? What if he's lying to you? What if mother's condition worsens? What if, all of a sudden, Feng Xiaoqi felt a chill run down his spine. Turning around, he met Luo Zilin's half-smile. How terrifying! Luo Zilin glanced at Feng Xiaoqi and casually said, "I've given it to you. It'll expire in 7 days. Use it or not." He left after that, but he didn't go very far. Instead, he sat casually on the swing in the courtyard as if this was his home. Even Feng Wu, who had always been confident, hesitated. "Sister," Feng Xiaoqi mumbled. "He's terrifying, but I still have to say it. What?" "I like brother-in-law Jun more." Feng Xiaoqi dashed off after that. Feng Wu asked, Where are you going? Feng Xiaoqi said, My master is calling me. I'm going to cultivate with him. However, as soon as Feng Xiaoqi stepped onto the wall, he fell to the ground with a thump, which almost brought tears to his eyes. How was that even possible? Although Feng Xiaoqi wasn't as capable as his sister, he had been making rapid progress. He was already a spiritual lord. How could he not climb over the wall? Feng Xiaoqi felt that someone had been tugging at his foot. He turned around involuntarily and looked at the teenager, who was basking in the sun. The teenager smiled at him. That was such a scary smile. Before Feng Xiaoqi knew it, he was going to jump onto the wall and run away again. However, the teenager in blue waved at him. Come here. Let's have a nice chat. What was there to talk about? Feng Xiaoqi wanted to run away, but an invisible hand seemed to grab him by the back of his collar. Whoosh. Feng Xiaoqi felt as if he was a kite that had been taken back. He flew backward and landed in front of the teenager with a thump. Feng Xiaoqi cried out in pain. Feng Wu was studying the potion Luo Zilin gave her, so she only asked, Xiaoqi, what happened? Feng Wu didn't think anything serious would happen in her own courtyard. Feng Xiaoqi was going to tell on Feng Wu, but when he saw the teenager's evil smile, he swallowed back his words and said gingerly, Sister, I'm fine. The teenager rubbed Feng Xiaoqi's head. Good boy. The hair on Feng Xiaoqi's back stood up and he tensed up like a nervous hedgehog. Chapter 4086, The Young Lord of the Dayan Empire, 7. Why are you so nervous? Luo Zilin patted Feng Xiaoqi on the head as if he were patting an adorable puppy. Feng Xiaoqi was on the alert. I just wanted to talk to you. Relax. Luo Zilin pointed at the stool in front of him. Sit. Feng Xiaoqi didn't want to sit there at all. All he wanted to do was run. However, Luo Zilin was too powerful for Feng Xiaoqi to handle. With a raise of his brow, Feng Xiaoqi had no choice but to sit down on the stool in front of him. Resting his hands on his knees, he looked both nervous and obedient. Feng Wu had no idea what Luo Zilin and Feng Xiaoqi were talking about, for all her attention was on the potion in her hand. Feng Wu had tested the potion and found that it was the right medicine. Feng Wu looked up through the open window and gave Luo Zilin a suspicious look. This man was quite mysterious. However, Feng Wu didn't have time for that. Her top priority now was to save her mother. Feng Wu squirted the potion under Lady Xuanji's nose, and the medicine was put to use. However, she couldn't tell what effect it had at the moment. Feng Wu kept an eye on Lady Xuanji for a while. When she checked her pulse again, she was amazed to find that the beautiful lattice pulse was indeed better than before. It wasn't obvious, but Feng Wu could feel it by checking her mother's pulse. Feng Wu left the room to find Luo Zilin giving Feng Xiaoqi instructions on his cultivation. She frowned a little. Xiaoqi couldn't just take instruction from a random person. If something went wrong, however, Feng Wu was about to say something when she saw that Feng Xiaoqi was making a breakthrough. His cultivation level was rising. Feng Wu didn't want to disturb Feng Xiaoqi, who was still making a breakthrough, so she could only glare at Luo Zilin. Luo Zilin casually walked up to Feng Wu and stood next to her. Seeing that Feng Wu wouldn't speak, Luo Zilin nudged her with his elbow, but he still raised his chin a little. Feng Wu still didn't say anything. Luo Zilin nudged her again. Hey, that medicine is working, isn't it? Feng Wu nodded. Luo Zilin asked, Did I help you then? Feng Wu said, We'll have to see how effective it is later. Luo Zilin snorted. I'm sure it'll work. Trust me. Feng Wu didn't reply. Instead, she kept her gaze on Feng Xiaoqi. Right now, Feng Xiaoqi was at the critical moment of his breakthrough. Instead of sitting on the ground and cultivating, he was practicing each stance. Luo Zilin gloated. Do you think his stances are very compatible with his spiritual essence? Feng Wu didn't nod, but she had a feeling that the stances were tailor-made for Xiaoqi and suited him perfectly. It's a unique skill of the Luo family. I don't teach it to just anyone, Luo Zilin said proudly. Feng Wu asked, How did you teach him then? Luo Zilin opened his fan. Well, he's my relative, and he has a rare ultimate spiritual body. It'll be a great honor to teach him. You know what? Only 3 people in the Luo family have learned it. Feng Wu stared at him. Luo Zilin went on. That's my grandfather, my dad and I. Now you know how much you owe me, don't you? Feng Wu snapped. Why should I believe you? Luo Zilin said, you have to believe me. Chapter 4087. The Young Lord of the Dian Empire. 8. Feng Wu threw a dirty look at him and ignored him. All her attention was on Feng Xiaoqi. However, she had to admit that Luo Zilin's cultivation technique was indeed very suitable for Xiaoqi. Just then, Xiaoqi had made 2 breakthroughs in a row and was already a peak level 9 spiritual lord. He was making breakthroughs so fast that it wouldn't be long before he reached the spiritual overlord stage. Only a handful of people in the history of the Zhengwu Empire had reached that level at such a young age. Luo Zilin's arrival stirred Feng Wu's peaceful life a little. The continent was very calm, and it reminded one of the calmness before a storm. During this period of time, Feng Wu went to see Duan Chaoge, as well as Feng Sun and Xian. She shared the cultivation techniques she had obtained from her 3rd senior brother and the resources she had obtained from the Dongsang kingdom with them so that they could use the time to cultivate. Meanwhile, Feng Wu went to the armory of the Zhengwu Empire and put in all the weapons she had obtained from the Dongsang kingdom. She also gave them a new set of forging drawings. While the general was thrilled, Feng Wu was smiling bitterly inwardly. The weapons would work on the soldiers of the Dongsang kingdom, but they wouldn't be of much use when it came to the Dian Empire. However, the battlefield of the advanced cultivators required the participation of the advanced cultivators. Feng Wu was making her breakthrough as well. She was a level 3 spiritual saint and still had a long way to go before she reached the peak of this continent. Therefore, she spared no effort in her cultivation. To her surprise, Luo Zilin didn't like her cultivation level at all. You're only a level 3 spiritual saint now? What's wrong with you? You're so weak. Luo Zilin gave Feng Wu a contemptuous look. He flapped his fan and clicked his tongue. You're unbelievably weak. Feng Wu wanted to punch him in the face. Resting her hands on her waist, she was speechless. I'm a level 3 spiritual saint. Where are you going to find a genius cultivator like me? You call yourself a genius cultivator with that little capability? If someone like you is a genius, what am I? The most handsome genius? Luo Zilin gloated. Feng Wu snorted and wasn't going to talk to him. Luo Zilin knew when to stop. Fine. I'll admit that you're a genius, all right? Feng Wu snorted. I don't need your recognition. Luo Zilin said, I've been traveling this continent for the past year, and you're indeed the most talented cultivator on this continent. Are you happy now? Feng Wu glanced at him. I'm not the most talented one on this continent. We have Jun Linyuan, and no one can be his match. Luo Zilin looked at Feng Wu. I've heard that name before, but I've never met him. If I have the chance, what are you going to do if you get to see him? Feng Wu asked casually. Luo Zilin chuckled. If I get to meet him one day, I'll show you that even Jun Linyuan is nothing special. I'm the most talented one. Feng Wu clicked her tongue. You're such a braggart. Luo Zilin said, go fetch that Jun Linyuan. I'll teach you a lesson. Feng Wu chuckled. That's all you can brag about when Jun Linyuan is in seclusion. You can say that when he comes out. Luo Zilin looked sorry. Has he gone into seclusion? What a pity. Chapter 4088. The Young Lord of the Dian Empire. 9. Feng Wu didn't believe him at all. Hey, what did you say about your continent? Aren't you from our continent? Feng Wu asked curiously. Luo Zilin flapped his fan but wouldn't answer. Feng Wu nudged him. Hey, I'm talking to you. Luo Zilin glanced at Feng Wu. Cultivate instead of talking. Feng Wu said, I'm a level 3 spiritual saint. Luo Zilin said, you can't be proud just because you're a level 3 spiritual saint. In my family, a level 3 spiritual saint is only a beginner. Even my younger brother is better than you. Feng Wu said, you're bragging. Luo Zilin said, you'll see. You need to start cultivating now. It'll make you a level 5 spiritual saint. That's my goal. Of course, Feng Wu wouldn't believe him. She stuck out her tongue at him, indicating that she didn't trust him at all. Luo Zilin was so angry that he laughed. You don't believe me, do you? Fine. Sit down. I'll direct your spiritual essence. I'm sure I can activate your talent. Sit down, Luo Zilin said solemnly. Somehow, Feng Wu felt that there was something very authoritative about Luo Zilin. It was his cultivation level, which reminded her of the intimidating energy her third senior brother gave off. How capable was Luo Zilin? Feng Wu wondered. In the end, Feng Wu did as she was told. Feng Wu didn't know what was wrong with her. Although she had been talking back to Luo Zilin all the time, at the critical moment, she had a feeling that Luo Zilin was trustworthy. To Feng Wu's surprise, after Luo Zilin directed her spiritual essence around her system, she suddenly felt the spiritual essence inside her turn hotter and hotter. A few days later, Feng Wu opened her eyes again. They were so clear that they looked like they had been washed with ice water. She stared at Luo Zilin in disbelief. How was that even possible? All Luo Zilin did was direct her spiritual essence through one cycle, and she was able to activate an unknown spiritual source. After that, she followed Luo Zilin's instructions and cultivated. Before she knew it, she was a level 5 spiritual saint. Going from level 3 to level 5 should be an extremely difficult process. Countless capable cultivators would be stuck here and would have to cultivate step by step. Some wouldn't even be able to make any progress. But she had made 2 breakthroughs in a row. The closed palm smacked her on the forehead. Feng Wu buried her face in her hands and looked resentfully at the man. Luo Zilin, why did you hit me? Luo Zilin gloated. You've made a breakthrough, haven't you? You're a level 5 spiritual saint now, aren't you? Do you know how awesome I am now? I bet you admire me so much that you want to prostrate yourself in front of me. I'm so much better than Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu didn't know what to say after that. But she knew perfectly well how terrifying Luo Zilin was. He could easily make Xiaoqi make a breakthrough and raise her cultivation level by 2 levels. Those 2 levels were the simplest breakthroughs Feng Wu had ever experienced. Even Feng Wu herself wouldn't believe it. However, Feng Wu still wouldn't admit it. I admit that you're very capable, but I don't think you're Jun Linyuan's match. Chapter 4089, Wandering Temple, 1. Luo Zilin snapped. He's your fiancé, isn't he? Why are you so protective of him? Feng Wu was confused. Why do you? She wanted to ask him how he knew, but on second thought, she realized that in the past few days when she was cultivating in seclusion, Luo Zilin would have been able to find out everything if he wanted to. Feng Wu looked at the Fang Manor next door. Ever since Luo Zilin arrived, the White Fairy had been here once. She met Luo Zilin and went straight back to the Fang Manor, never to be seen again. Feng Wu knew that Luo Zilin had to be very capable. Just then Feng Wu heard a noise. It sounded like a spiritual saint making a breakthrough in the direction of the Wandering Temple. Feng Wu immediately headed for the Wandering Temple. As soon as Feng Wu left, Luo Zilin followed her, Fanins himself. Feng Wu turned around and frowned at him. I don't think you should go. Luo Zilin said, Why can't I? Of course I have to go. Feng Wu was in a hurry to see what was going on in the Wandering Temple, so she didn't have time to argue with Luo Zilin. She dashed off. Outside the temple, the little monk spotted Feng Wu. He didn't have time to inform Feng Wu before Feng Wu rushed in like a gust of wind. Apart from a low table, 2 people, and 4 rush cushions, there was nothing else in the spacious room. Master Linghu and Feng Xiangnan sat opposite each other. Feng Wu noticed that Master Linghu had been transmitting spiritual essence to Feng Xiangnan. Even after the breakthrough, his cultivation level was still rising. Well, that's interesting. Luo Zilin rubbed his chin and smiled. Feng Wu looked over her shoulder. Luo Zilin said, I didn't expect to see such a capable cultivator in a small place like yours. It's so dangerous. Feng Wu glanced at him. Do you mean Master Linghu? Luo Zilin asked, Who else is there? Do you know what level he is? Feng Wu asked curiously, What level is he? Luo Zilin chuckled. Are you curious? Feng Wu said, "Tell me or don't." Luo Zilin said, "I won't tell you then." Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Luo Zilin said, "Fine, I'll tell you. He's more capable than a spiritual saint. Do you see it now? But he can't leave this city." Feng Wu looked curiously at him again. Feng Wu knew that Master Ling Hu couldn't leave the city because he had mentioned it to her before. But how did Luo Zilin know? He had only met Master Ling Hu for the first time, hadn't he? Seeing that Feng Wu was curious, Luo Zilin asked, "Do you want to know?" Feng Wu said, "You're not going to tell me." Luo Zilin rubbed Feng Wu's head and smiled. "You're such a goad. That's quick." Feng Wu moved away from him and cast a stern look at him. "If you have something to say, say it. I don't know you that well." Luo Zilin wasn't offended. He flapped his fan and said cheerfully, "Do you want to know me better? Let me stay with you. We'll get to know each other better after some time." Feng Wu was about to retort when she heard some noise up ahead. To her surprise, Feng Xiangnan had made another breakthrough. He had made another breakthrough. Feng Wu was so surprised that her eyes popped. How was that possible? Chapter 4090, The Wandering Temple, 2. Her godfather had been stuck at a bottleneck, which was almost impossible to break. He had finally made a breakthrough, but now he had made 2 breakthroughs in a row. That was unbelievable. What level is he now? Feng Wu was curious. Luo Zilin told her, "He's a peak spiritual saint now." Feng Wu looked back at him in amazement. "A peak spiritual saint? You're not lying to me." Feng Wu remembered that the last time her godfather fought Xue Zhibei, he was only an intermediate spiritual saint. Back then he was only slightly weaker than Xue Zhibei. How long had it been since then, and he was already a peak spiritual saint? Luo Zilin said, "It was all thanks to that old man that he was able to make a breakthrough. It's not that easy, because the old man's cultivation level will be depleted. Therefore, only a few people are willing to do it. Of course, only a handful of people are qualified to do it. That's because only those who have surpassed the spiritual saint stage can have this kind of energy." Feng Wu asked curiously, "I've been hearing you talk about surpassing the spiritual saint stage. What's that?" Luo Zilin said, "He's a spiritual sovereign. They're very rare even in the Dayan Empire. I didn't expect to find one here. How special." Feng Wu thought, "What's so special about that? He's my 5th senior brother." While Feng Wu and Luo Zilin were talking, Feng Xiangnan finally stopped cultivating and slowly opened his eyes. The first person he saw was Master Ling Hu. However, Master Ling Hu had his back to Feng Xiangnan, so Feng Xiangnan didn't see the sweat on his forehead. "Master!" Feng Xiangnan was about to say something when Master Ling Hu cut him off and shook his head. "Finish absorbing the spiritual essence first," said Master Ling Hu. Feng Xiangnan nodded repeatedly, fought back his excitement, and resumed his cultivation. Master Ling Hu said to Feng Wu, "Kiddo, come here." Feng Wu quickly walked up to Master Ling Hu. "Sit down." Feng Wu nodded and sat down obediently. Master Ling's eyes lit up when he looked at Feng Wu. "Your capability." It had never occurred to Master Ling Hu that Feng Wu would become a level 5 spiritual saint again. "That's all thanks to me. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to make a breakthrough." Luo Zilin raised an eyebrow. Master Ling Hu looked at him. Feng Wu noticed that the look on the old man's face had turned grimmer and sterner. However, he soon resumed his haughty demeanor. "Sir, are you from the other side of the sea?" Master Ling Hu asked directly. Anyone else would have behaved in a restrained manner in front of Master Ling Hu. Even Feng Xiangnan, the general, was very respectful toward Master Ling Hu. Luo Zilin, on the other hand, felt that Master Ling Hu was his equal. Feng Wu didn't know if she was mistaken, but she felt that way. Master Ling Hu gestured at him to sit down. Luo Zilin sat down on the rush cushion next to Feng Wu and smiled at Master Ling Hu. "Does it matter where I'm from?" He didn't deny it. Feng Wu stared at him in surprise. Chapter 4091, Wandering Temple, 3. Feng Wu stared at him in surprise. Luo Zilin glanced at Feng Wu and raised an eyebrow in satisfaction, But Feng Wu was confused. Are you really from the Dian Empire? Are you telling the truth? Luo Zilin rolled his eyes. Young lady, how many times have I told you? Do you still think him a liar? Feng Wu hesitated and glared at him again. What's wrong? I was just wondering. Do people from the Dian Empire come so easily nowadays? Isn't it very far away from here, and there's a restriction on it? It's not very likely that they'll come this way. Luo Zilin jabbed a finger into Feng Wu's forehead, and Feng Wu stumbled back. Speak. Don't touch me. Master Ling Hu smiled at them. Feng Wu asked curiously, which force are you from? Which family or clan? Luo Zilin glanced at Feng Wu and raised an eyebrow. Do you know what forces and families are there in the Dian Empire? Feng Wu shook her head. Luo Zilin flapped his fan and said proudly, there's no point telling you. You'll never know how capable my family is. Feng Wu snorted. Is it as impressive as Lord Yan's residence? Yan Yu and Yan Ling are quite capable if you ask me. Luo Zilin gave Feng Wu a strange look. Feng Wu asked, why are you looking at me like that? Luo Zilin said, Yan Yu is one thing, but you call Yan Ling talented? Someone like her? At her age, she can't even get into the spiritual saint stage. She has no talent. Even a cripple like you is 100 times better than her. At her age, Feng Wu was speechless. She didn't look like she was 20 yet. Luo Zilin said, 19. Feng Wu was speechless again. 19 isn't old at all. Luo Zilin asked Feng Wu, what about you? Feng Wu said, well, Luo Zilin said, back in my hometown, if a core member of a major clan hasn't reached the spiritual saint stage, they're useless. Yan Ling is just too useless. That's why she's here. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Master Ling Hu should know about this, right? Luo Zilin looked up at Master Ling Hu. Feng Wu looked at Master Ling Hu in bewilderment. Master Ling Hu nodded. That's true. It's indeed the case in the Dian Empire. Feng Wu asked curiously, have you been there before? After some hesitation, Master Ling Hu nodded. I did live there for a while when I was younger. Young Master Luo, are you from the Luo family? Luo Zilin raised his eyebrows. Master Ling Hu, I didn't know you knew about the Luo family. Master Ling Hu chuckled. Does anyone in the Dian Empire know doesn't who the Luo family is? Feng Wu asked curiously, is the Luo family famous? Master Ling Hu nodded but didn't say anything. However, when he looked up again, he stared at Luo Zilin for a while before saying to Feng Wu, you can leave now. Was it something she couldn't hear? Feng Wu was perplexed, but she had to leave the room for the time being. 5 minutes later, Luo Zilin came out. Feng Wu stared at him. What did Master Ling Hu tell you? Luo Zilin opened his fan. I can't let you know. Feng Wu asked, are you going to tell me or not? Luo Zilin grinned. Why don't you call me brother? I'll tell you what it is. Feng Wu had heard that request before. No. Feng Wu had her principles. Chapter 4092, Birthday Party, 1. Luo Zilin looked at Feng Wu affectionately and rubbed her head. Kiddo. Feng Wu dodged and warned him. Don't call me that and don't touch my hair. Luo Zilin shrugged, but he wasn't sure if he would do it again. Master Ling Hu is a very capable cultivator, said Luo Zilin all of a sudden. Feng Wu was pleasantly surprised. What kind of master is he? Is he even more capable than Yan Yu? Luo Zilin said, Yan Yu? Feng Wu asked, what's that supposed to mean? Is that a yes or a no? Luo Zilin went on trying to leave her hanging. You'll see. Feng Wu snorted and ignored him, for at that moment, General Feng walked out. Father, are you a level 9 now? Feng Wu went up to him with a big smile on her face. Feng Xiangnan was elated to see Feng Wu as well. He laughed and rubbed Feng Wu's head. Ha! You're my lucky star. Thanks to you I made this breakthrough. But you're already a level 5 spiritual saint in such a short time. You're such a genius. Feng Xiangnan rubbed Feng Wu's head again with a gentle look in his eyes. Luo Zilin was displeased. Why could this man rub Xiao Wu's head, but not him? The teenager's face darkened. Feng Wu ignored Luo Xilan's displeasure and said happily to Feng Xiangnan, Yan Yu, the prince of the Dian Empire, has arrived at the Dongsang Kingdom with a large group of capable cultivators. Father, I'm so glad that you've reached level 9 of the spiritual saint stage. Otherwise, the Junwu Empire would be in danger. Prince Yan Yu? Who's that? Feng Xiangnan didn't know that. Hence, Feng Wu told Feng Xiangnan what she saw in the Dongsang Kingdom, which made Feng Xiangnan's mouth fall open. He cried out in surprise, So, you're the culprit behind everything that happened in the Dongsang Kingdom. I was wondering how the Dongsang Kingdom could have gone through so much. No wonder. I should have guessed it, but you, Luo Zilin was surprised as well. He had already overestimated Feng Wu, but he didn't expect her to be so much smarter than he had expected. To the Dian Empire, this was only a small border area. I'm going to see His Majesty, then to the Peace Grassland. Protect yourself and don't go anywhere else. Got it? Feng Xiangnan told Feng Wu. Feng Wu knew how much responsibility her godfather had to take, so she nodded immediately. Feng Xiangnan soon left. As soon as he left, Feng Wu heard someone clicking their tongues. Feng Wu turned around and glanced at Luo Zilin in resignation. What are you doing? What's that look in your eyes? Why do I feel that you're jealous? Luo Zilin snorted. Why can he do that to you, but I can't? Feng Wu said matter-of-factly, because he's my senior. Luo Zilin said, I'm your brother. Feng Wu said, Heh. She wouldn't believe it. Luo Zilin snorted. Suit yourself. You'll believe me one day. When that happens, you'll want to follow me around and call me your brother. Feng Wu snorted again. I'll wait for that day. Chapter 4093, Birthday Party? 2. Luo Zilin said, Sure. But I didn't know you were so bold. How could you do such a thing? Do you know who's behind little Yanling? Little Yanling? Feng Wu found a loophole in Luo Xilan's words. She narrowed her eyes and gave him a sidelong glance. Why do I get the feeling that you're very close to Princess Yanling? Luo Zilin denied it. What do you mean? She wants to be on friendly terms with me, but I won't have anything to do with her. Feng Wu glanced at him. Luo Zilin asked, You don't believe me? Feng Wu nodded. Luo Zilin said, You'll believe me one day. In the imperial palace, Emperor Wu fell ill because he was worried about the threat from the empire. Empress Dugu told the Empress Dowager what had happened. The emperor is sick? The Empress Dowager panicked when she heard the news. He's in such good health. How can he be sick? Since when? Empress Dugu stammered at first, but in the end she told the Empress Dowager, I don't know what Feng Wu said to His Majesty after she came to the imperial palace, but His Majesty has been a little unstable since then. He's been depressed these days and gradually he's not feeling well. The Empress Dowager's face darkened. It's her? Why is it her again? Hasn't she disappeared for a while? Why is she back? I knew it. Nothing good will come out of her. The more she thought about it, the angrier the Empress Dowager became. She smacked the table and said, Junjun came back with her last time, but Junjun disappeared afterward, and I couldn't even see him. She's even closer to Junjun than I am. Empress Dugu was secretly elated to see the indignant look on the Empress Dowager's face, but she didn't let it show. Maybe His Royal Highness is in seclusion. The Empress Dowager said angrily, He's in seclusion again. Even if he is, can't he just send someone to tell me? Moreover, why do I feel that Junjun has something to do with the Emperor's illness? Has something happened to Junjun? The Empress Dowager's imagination ran wild. At that thought, she couldn't sit still anymore and ran out of the room. Empress Dugu immediately followed her. The maids and grannies quickly followed her as well. In the Emperor's bedchamber. Your Majesty! Seeing that Emperor Wu was struggling to his feet, the Empress Dowager rushed over to stop him. How's the Emperor doing? The Empress Dowager asked Master Chu. Master Chu immediately said that His Majesty was all right and was only worried too much. The Empress Dowager stared at Emperor Wu. Worries? What happened? Emperor Wu waved his hand with a wry smile. What was it? That would be a very big deal, but telling them would only create more trouble and panic. so he decided not to tell them. Ever since Feng Wu told him about the Dian Empire, Emperor Wu had been writing letters to the neighboring countries for help. Since they were all from the same continent, they should work together to fight against the invasion of the other continent. However, the letters he received all turned him down. Emperor Wu was filled with despair. Was the Junwo Empire going to be destroyed? Meanwhile, the Empress Dowager was still speculating. Chapter 4094, Birthday Party 3. Just then, the Empress Dowager said, "Are you overthinking it because of what Feng Wu said? Is something wrong with Junjun? Tell me." Emperor Wu waved her off. "It has nothing to do with the Crown Prince." The Empress Dowager said angrily, "If it's not about Junjun, what is it? Why are you so disturbed? Is Feng Wu in trouble? Didn't she go to the Dongsang Kingdom? Is she in trouble?" Emperor Wu frowned. "Mother, how did you know that?" The Empress Dowager smirked. "I don't care about worldly affairs. Do you really think I'm deaf? Someone will tell me what's going on outside." The Empress Dowager darted an indifferent glance at the Empress as she spoke. Of course, Emperor Wu saw it. The Empress must have told the Empress Dowager something to make her speculate. Emperor Wu recalled how Feng Wu had single-handedly infiltrated the Dongsang Kingdom at the risk of her own life and disturbed the peace there. She had single-handedly tricked the Dongsang Emperor, Night Owl, Lord Jing, and Princess Yanling. The girl was a great contributor. Not only couldn't Emperor Wu publicly reward her, but someone had also slandered her. Emperor Wu's face darkened. "Your Majesty," the Empress Dowager's stomach lurched when she saw the look on Emperor Wu's face. Rubbing his forehead, the Junwo Empire said to the Empress Dowager, "Mother, please go pack your things." The Empress Dowager said, "What?" Emperor Wu said, "Mother, I think you should go to Mount Qintai and stay in the temple for the time being." The Empress Dowager stared at Emperor Wu in astonishment. What the hell? It was December and New Year's Eve was only a few days away. No one would go out in the middle of the night like that. Has he lost his mind? The Empress Dowager wanted to check the temperature of Emperor Wu's forehead, but Emperor Wu only said solemnly, "Mother, if you really want to help me, go to Mount Qintai and live there." Maybe she could still live. Emperor Wu was filled with despair. The Junwo Empire had always been on friendly terms with the Nanling Empire. Therefore, Emperor Wu had high hopes that the kingdom would take in a few people, but they turned him down. Therefore, Emperor Wu had to send the Empress Dowager to Qintai Mountain. "Your Majesty." Seeing how stubborn Emperor Wu was, the Empress Dowager was a little angry. Her son had never disobeyed her, but now, nothing she said would work. The Empress Dowager isn't the only one going. "Dugu, you're going as well. Take Linshan with you." Emperor Wu told the Empress. That way, at least one more member of the royal family would be alive. Empress Dugu frowned. "Your Majesty, has something happened? Why are you so?" Emperor Wu took a deep breath and suddenly had a shortness of breath. He coughed so hard that he thought his lungs were going to fall out. "Your Majesty," Empress Dugu rushed to his side. Emperor Wu waved his hand. He knew that they wouldn't go if he didn't tell them. Even if they did, they might not survive. At that thought, he straightened his face and told Master Chu, "Give Her Majesty the Empress Dowager a quick-acting pill." Was it that serious? The Empress Dowager shuddered. Had something really happened to her Junjun? Emperor Wu only told them what was going to happen after the Empress Dowager took the pill. The Junwu Empire may not survive this. It took Emperor Wu a lot of courage to say those words. Chapter 4095, Birthday Party 4. Wait, what do you mean by that? Empress Dugu was the first to react. The Empress Dowager chimed in. That's right. Explain yourself. What do you mean by losing the Junwo Empire? Tears welled up in Emperor Wu's eyes. The Empress Dowager was even more anxious. She tugged at Emperor Wu. Tell me. Empress Dugu also stared at Emperor Wu anxiously. Since he had said the most difficult part, Emperor Wu could finish the rest in a much smoother voice. The Dongsang Kingdom is under the control of the Dian Empire, and they're going to attack the Junwo Empire. I think the empire is going to be destroyed. Bullshit. The Empress Dowager was so angry that she wanted to smack Emperor Wu in the head. That's bullshit. Emperor Wu smiled bitterly. Mother, I want to make it up, but it's the truth from the Dongsang Kingdom, and it can't be fake. That's why I've decided to let you take shelter in Qintai Mountain. After all, there's... From the Dongsang Kingdom? Who sent it? The Empress Dowager asked aggressively. Empress Dugu suddenly realized something and pointed at Emperor Wu. Is it Feng Wu? Hasn't she just come back from the Dongsang Kingdom? Hearing that, the Empress Dowager was even angrier. I think you've fallen ill because of what she said. Bring Feng Wu here. A servant of the Empress Dowager stepped out. Bring Feng Wu to the Imperial Palace. How dare she spread such rumors? She's unbelievable. I won't forgive her. The guard hesitated. Apart from the Empress Dowager, everyone knew how highly Emperor Wu and Jun Linyuan thought of Feng Wu. Emperor Wu almost jumped out of bed, but before he could stop her, he started coughing violently. The Empress Dowager's heart went out to Emperor Wu when she saw that he was coughing so violently. She immediately went up to him and cried, Master Chu! Master Chu! Mother, please don't disrespect Feng Wu. When Emperor Wu finally stopped coughing, he grabbed the Empress Dowager's hand. No! The Empress Dowager threw a dirty look at Emperor Wu and said angrily, I won't forgive her. Emperor Wu was so angry that he coughed again. She didn't spread the rumor. That girl has done us a great favor. As for what Feng Wu did in the Dongsang Kingdom, Emperor Wu wouldn't go into detail. After all, Feng Wu had done some mysterious things, and there were too many people in the palace. If word got out, it wouldn't do Feng Wu any good. Therefore, when the Empress Dowager asked what Feng Wu did in the Dongsang Kingdom, Emperor Wu didn't elaborate. He only said, that girl has contributed greatly to the empire. Mother, please don't mistreat her. Otherwise, he thought, otherwise if you offend the girl, she may try to do something to you. I may not be able to stop her. But the Empress Dowager wouldn't listen. To her, Feng Wu was the worst. Since the emperor wouldn't let her summon Feng Wu to court, she would leave the imperial palace to see herself. Satisfied? Emperor Wu was exhausted. After he fell asleep after taking the calming medicine, the Empress Dowager led Granny Lan and the others out of the palace and headed for the Feng Manor. Chapter 4096, Birthday Party, 5. After hearing that the Empress Dowager had left the imperial palace, the Empress immediately sent someone to the Dugu family to invite her sister-in-law here. She knew perfectly well that the Dugu family was connected to the Dian Empire. When Princess Yanling of the Dian Empire came to the Junwo Empire, the Dugu family had secretly switched sides. Of course, only a handful of people knew about it, even the younger generation wasn't aware. Emperor Wu was kept in the dark. The Empress Dowager was on the move. She was traveling in a carriage. Granny Lan and Granny Gui had been with the Empress Dowager for a long time, and Granny Lan had always liked Feng Wu. However, Granny Gui was close to Empress Dugu, so it was obvious that she was hostile toward Feng Wu. The Empress Dowager kept a straight face and wouldn't say a word. The air she gave off made everyone shiver. Granny Lan said, Your Majesty, actually, Feng Wu. The Empress Dowager glared at her. Granny Lan couldn't utter a word. Granny Gui smirked inwardly. That stupid Granny Lan had no idea how angry the Empress Dowager was. She was still trying to defend Feng Wu. Granny Gui whispered, Your Majesty, shall we take Feng Wu and leave as soon as we get there, or shall we? The Empress Dowager glanced at her, but it was obvious that the look in her eyes softened a little. But the Empress Dowager still didn't say anything. Granny Gui whispered again, Everyone says that Feng Wu is a fast cultivator. I wonder what level she has reached. What if she's already very capable? The Empress Dowager snorted. Very capable? How capable can she be? Have you forgotten? She only started cultivating again 2 years ago. How far can she go in those 2 years? What did she give you? Why do you think so highly of her? Granny Gui didn't dare to utter a word. She had given the Empress Dowager a hint before she left the imperial palace because she had more information than the old lady and knew that Feng Wu was at least a spiritual saint. However, The Empress Dowager had brought Nameless, her most capable secret guard, with her. Nameless had been protecting the Empress Dowager in secret and was a levelized spiritual saint. That should be enough. Granny Lon spoke in the end. She then turned to the Empress Dowager, looking concerned. Your Majesty, it's New Year's Eve and Feng Wu's birthday. Even if it's for His Royal Highness' own good. The Empress Dowager glared at Granny Lon. Why should I depend on her when I have Junjun? Are you working for her or me? Granny Lon immediately knelt down and sighed inwardly. Of course, I'm Your Majesty's servant. The Empress Dowager snorted. Shut up, Granny Gue. Yes, Your Majesty. Granny Gue immediately knelt down. The Empress Dowager threw a dirty look at Granny Lon and said to Granny Gue, from now on, you're going to be the maid in charge of Sinang Palace. Granny Lon used to be in charge, while Granny Gue was the deputy one. After all these years, Granny Gue had done everything she could to get that position, but now, it had come so easily. Granny Gue immediately came back to herself and kowtowed to the Empress Dowager. Thank you, Your Majesty. The Empress Dowager gave Granny Lon a sidelong glance. I only want loyal people. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.